Sailing back south from the Marquesas to the Society Islands, we head to our first two stops, Huahine and Taha'a. While Bora Bora and Moorea may be the more glamorous and well-known islands in the Society group, these two islands are just as beautiful, but much more quiet, local, and some say authentic. Huahine was our first port of call, and thanks to the unsettled weather, it put on quite a welcoming show. Huahine is actually two islands which are connected by a bridge. We visit a pearl farm to get a good look at how these gems are cultivated. To grow a pearl, it takes a graft and a nuclei, and I was surprised to learn that the nuclei come from shells harvested in and along the Mississippi River back in the States. After a number of nuclei and grafts are completed, the oysters are brought back out to the water to grow.
We open the oyster.
A pearl cultivated this way can be transplanted up to 4 times to help it reach maximum size. And they are beautiful. Huahine is home to one of the largest concentrations of Polynesian archaeological remains dated between 850 AD and 1100 AD. Potee Maeva is one of the most famous whares. It's a traditional Polynesian house that has been converted into a museum, full of local art, handcrafts, and historic pieces. The village of Maeva once boasted 8 chiefdoms, and that's why this village is so very rich in archaeological remains. Another interesting visit is to the coral stone fish parks in Maeva. These are fishing weirs fashioned from local coral and were built in ancient times. Their V shape makes it easy to catch fish during tidal movements, and they're still in use today. Since the olden days, the community has one rule when using these structures, and that is, take only enough for you and your family to eat. In order to ensure enough fish for everyone, these weirs are not to be used for commercial fishing. It's a practice that still works in this small, tight-knit community. The fertile valleys and sloping hillsides of Taha'a are covered with banana, watermelon, and coconut groves. The island is also an immense natural greenhouse for the highly prized Tahitian vanilla orchid, a hybrid of two varieties that is only grown in French Polynesia. You say the words black gold to an American, and we might think of oil. Here in Taha'a, though, they think of vanilla. Vanilla originally came from Mexico, where the flowers are pollinated by the Melipona bees. Taha'a grows nearly 80% of all vanilla produced in French Polynesia. But there are none of those bees here. So the pollination has to be performed by hand, in a painstaking procedure known as marrying the vanilla. Timing is critical because the flowers only remain open for one morning before closing and dying. It then takes 9 months for the fertilized flower to become a vanilla bean or pod, and a further 3 or 4 months of drying the beans in the sun to cure and ferment them until they are dark brown and ready for the kitchen. This sumptuous spice and its intoxicating scent pervades the air here and is used in the local cuisine, perfumes, liquors, and aromatherapy. Our last visit on Taha'a was to the Pari Pari distillery, where we got a close-up look at the process of making rum on this tiny island. And yes, some of it was vanilla flavored. There was some excitement on board the next morning as the chef demonstrated his filleting techniques on a giant line-caught moonfish and a couple of other smaller fish he acquired the night before from some local fishermen.
C'est blanc rosé. Allez, ça c'est vous avez donc le filet. Vous pouvez voir la couleur qui ressemble à celle du saumon sauvage et qui n'a rien à voir avec le saumon sauvage. Ça c'est pour le filet, la partie du poulet, la voilà.
The sushi at lunch that day was particularly good. Bora Bora is possibly the most famous of the islands of French Polynesia and is said to have been the inspiration for the island of Bali High in the musical South Pacific. I signed up for a shallow snorkel expedition to see the rays. The black-tipped sand sharks, and the colorful sergeant majors. And I was not disappointed. Later, they took us to a fabulous picnic on a private island. And then it was back to the ship. Well, our voyage was in the final stretch, and if there's one thing that's been consistent throughout these past 2 weeks, it's that each island seems to be more beautiful than the last one. In fact, it's hard to say which of these islands would win the top spot in a French Polynesia beauty contest, but Moorea would always be near the top of the list. Even though I'd photographed here for my National Geographic Traveler assignment years ago, I signed up for a photo tour with a local professional photographer. Lorelei from Eyes of Moorea was going to take us to a couple of her favorite spots.
This one's 5 minutes.
The first stop was a beautiful beach on Upanohu Bay, where we got some great looks at the ship itself. In fact, no matter where you turned, there was another picture. Ha'apiti Church sits in a beautiful location. Now, the maintenance crew was in that day, so we couldn't get a clean shot without cars or trucks outside the building. But we did get a look inside. Next, we stopped in a field of pineapples with beautiful Mount Rotui in the background. Towering some 3,000 feet, Rotui rests at the center of the crater of an ancient volcano. And finally, we headed up to the pièce de résistance, the Belvedere, which offers a spectacular angle on almost all of Moorea's 8 mountain peaks, as well as 2 of the island's most beautiful bays, Opanuhu and Cook's Bay. It was a perfect way to cap off the visit. As we made our way back to the ship, bound for Tahiti and then back home, I made a silent promise to myself not to allow another 2 years to go by, let alone 20, before coming back again to further explore French Polynesia.